You are listening to the Marc Guzman Podcast Experience.
Basically, to have an angled deck, and so they had some. It doesn't look like it originally as it came out, but it's the integrity is there.
So it was commissioned in 1943, built in 14 months. Was it immediately used?
It was put right into service by the spring of '44. It was in the South Pacific in some of their major battles. The Marianas Turkey Shoot, which is one of the major air battles in the Pacific.
So it was a battleship first before an air carrier.
Well, it carried aircraft for these battles.
Okay.
And it wasn't a battleship. It's always been an aircraft carrier, but it was in major battles throughout the Pacific Fleet during World War II. It was instrumental in the sinking a huge battleship, a Japanese battleship called Yamato, and as I said, if you go in there, we have all the battle ribbons on the side of the bulkhead there, and it is really a remarkably decorated ship. It's the 8th USS Hornet. It's the last USS Hornet. They haven't commissioned a new one since then, but it's a special place to be.
How long would the Navy officers be out at sea?
During wartime, they would be out for months at sea, and they'd come into port for replenishment. Basically, that'd be it. But during peacetime, a normal carrier like now goes out anywhere from a 6 to 9 month deployment, and they come back in port and for training, and they're in port for maybe 8 to 12 months. But during the wartime, they were out there for as long as they needed to be, because until the war was over, that you're out there doing what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. And so you said in the 50s it was remodeled.
Right, it was reconfigured. When it was built, it had a straight deck. Landed at one end, and it just went all the way through. They redesigned it called an angled deck, where there's kind of a V shape to the top deck with the aircraft. And one is for takeoff and one's for landing, basically on this V. And it's a lot more efficient, safer, a better operation. And it was also configured for jet aircraft because they put the catapults in and some other things to help them take off, and then the wires for the landing hooks and everything else. So this is a whole reconfiguration. So it didn't see any service during the Korean War. But following in the 50s, it saw significant service in Vietnam, off the coast of Vietnam. So there was a lot of action for the Hornet then.
At what year was it decommissioned?
It was decommissioned about 1970. It was supposed to go to the scrap heap and be cut up and salvaged. But a little over 20 years ago, they were getting ready to decommission the Naval Air Station at Alameda, and the CO of the base saw the Hornet across the bay in San Francisco getting ready to cut up and said, it'd be great to have it come over here and just for some photos for our decommissioning ceremony. As it came over, a bunch of people got there and said, we need to save this as a museum, as a landmark. And that's how it got saved, and now it's been there ever since.
Wow, that's really, really neat. Yeah, that's amazing history. So, and I didn't know about the how he was involved with the space program,
right?
With the
two
missions. You said Apollo 11 and 12?
11 and 12, the first two manned missions to the moon. There were other carriers were involved in Vietnam, and this carrier was free to be used, and it was in the right place at the right time. And so they had crews recover the capsule and the crew and the astronauts themselves. So that was July and I think October or November of '69. And so those are unique positions, and it is a unique, as I said, it's uniquely tied to the Apollo program and the space program, and we're really looking forward to that 50th anniversary next year and celebrating that. We're hoping to get some astronauts here to celebrate. It's kind of dicey right now because they'll probably be in Washington, D.C. or at the Smithsonian, someplace like that, but we're trying to get some folks here.
It's going to be interesting, the new Space Force that they're developing.
It kind of remains seen how that's going to work out. There's still some questions whether that's actually going to happen because it still has to be funded and what the mission is going to be. But and there's some treaties also that kind of prevent you from militarizing space. So that's another issue that's got to be determined.
Oh, there's treaties that prevent that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's going to be okay. Yeah. So it's going to be very.
There's a lot of things to work. There are a lot of details to work out before that becomes a reality.
Yeah, because I know NASA announced it along with SpaceX, along with the European Space Agency, that they all want to send a small little colony up to Mars.
Right. That's the next big push is to get people to Mars. In fact, there's a spaceship being built right now called the Orion. which I love the name because that's the name of the plane I used to fly, but it's now going to be a spaceship. And it's going to replace what the Apollo program was with the capsule. And it's for long-range interplanetary space travel. And they're doing testing on it right now. They've done some ballistic work on it as far as launching it and recovering it. And that'll be the new manned space travel program. And hopefully it'll go to Mars sometime in the early 2020, 2024, somewhere around there, or something like that. And
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's a long trip. That's looking
6 months, right?
Yeah, minimum 6 months.
And that's 6 months because of when the planets
you got to line them up. That's one way. Then you got to turn around and come back.
Yeah. So I read somewhere where it's every 2 years you can travel back and forth,
Right.
and it's a 6-month travel.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy. So let's talk more about the museum.
Sure.
What other exhibits do you have there? Well, how's a flight simulator? Thank you for listening to this podcast short. For more podcast content, be sure to subscribe to all of our podcast channels on YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Libsyn, Castbox, Podbean, and literally anywhere else you listen to podcasts.